Hello, members. Tom Morrison here from Nashville, Tennessee, the home office of the Metal Treating Institute. We are so excited to be with you today to talk about energy. But before we dive into that, there's just so much in December going on at MTI, looking and preparing for 2022. I don't know about you, but we always think December is going to kind of be this kind of, let's just kind of cruise into the next year and then come at it full force. But MTI has been rocking and rolling. I'm sure you have too. December's been an extraordinarily busy month with a lot of cool things. I want to mention 3 things to you that you have to pay attention to. 1, how hard is it to hire good people? It is extraordinarily hard. A lot of the issues behind hiring good people is being able to tell the story in a way that makes a young person or even someone with a lot of experience to want to work in our industry. Well, now that's been solved for you. MTI at the fall meeting launched heattreatcareers.com. That's heattreatcareers.com. It's a full website that shares in video format the stories of why work in heat treating, what is heat treating, and the impact of heat treating. And it's built in a way that you can literally link it to your site and say, hey, looking for a great career opportunity, click here. And it goes right to that and tells the full story in a unified and consistent manner. So go out to heattreatcareers.com, check it out, and see the work of the Next Gen Committee who put a lot of work into this the last year. The second thing is when you get people hired, people have to have great bosses to want to stay there, because what studies are showing, as we've been saying for a long time, is people are not leaving their bosses or managers. They're not leaving their jobs. They're leaving their bosses or managers. And MTI has this incredible 12-module set, about 15 to 25-minute videos that came from our Yes Management training program, the 3rd session from Dr. Rick Marks on emotional intelligence in the workplace. And it's 12 modules that you can go through with your team on video. And you can buy it in print format with the videos on thumb drive and walk through it together. So you can ask yourself 3 questions when you're going through this management training as a team. What did we learn? What are the gaps that we need to fill? And then what can we do to make a better culture in our workplace? And if you go out to heattreat.net, our main website, right under Why Join, you can see a link that says take advantage of MTI's training special. To train 6 people, it would be $2,950 to train them all on MTI's site. Now you can buy this program for $695 right from our website, and it's shipped to you within 24 hours. And you can prepare your management team to really create that place that when people go to heattreatcareers.com and see what heat treating is all about and come work for you, they'll want to stay there because the culture is really good. And the last thing, which is one of the most important, is uncertainty in the marketplace. We're going to talk about that in the energy market today with Dan. So uncertainty in the marketplace. MTI just released its full schedule on our website, heattreat.net. If you go there and go to benefits tab on the top and click down, you'll go to the business intelligence release dates. And you'll see when we're going to release our monthly 12-month trend analysis and our 4-month, 3-year quarterly forecast for heat treat sales and 8 other industries that drive heat treat. We also have the ops cost element in there, the annual wage and benefits. So lots of good things going on with MTI to do a couple things. Help you attract good people, help you create a culture they want to stay, and give you great information on a daily basis that helps you make great decisions in your workplace. So lots of good information coming up in 2022 for you. So now we're going to get into what a lot of people came here for, and that's talk about energy. And if you've noticed on your right down at the bottom, you'll see a chat option. If you click on that, a chat box will come up. And if there's anything that you want to ask myself or Dan about the content about what we're going to talk about, please post those questions. I'll be monitoring those, and Dan will answer those for you as we go along. But so today, Dan, we'd like to welcome Dan. Dan, how do you say your last name? Is it Forgacs?
Forgacs, Tom. Nobody gets it right, so don't feel bad.
I know. So Dan Forgacs from APPI Energy. APPI Energy is MTI's endorsed and official energy procurement company. They've been working with us for probably, they've been here ever since I've been here, which is 16 years, so probably 18 years. And they're endorsed by over 155 national trade associations to do energy procurement. Why? Because they're very good at the data side of it, at the usage of it, and the purchasing of it. So Dan, welcome to MTI's webcast.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks for having us today.
So Dan, give us, I think this might be your first one. We usually had Mike Payne, who's gone on to bigger and better pastures in his life. So tell a little bit about Dan, how long you've been with APPI Energy and your background.
Sure. Yeah. Again, thanks for having us today, Tom. So I've been in the industry for about almost 20 years now. Early 2000s, Michigan deregulated their electricity and markets. So I got into the industry at that time. I've been with APPI for about 12 years now. And my current position, worn a few different hats here, but my current position is really to our Vice President of Market Intelligence and Analytics. really to help our consultants be well educated in really all things energy. Our ultimate goal of that is to help your members make well-educated buying decisions, whether that's for electricity, natural gas in those markets where competition is available, but even across the country, when we look at sustainability and efficiency measures, we can help MTI members really in any location, whether it's in a deregulated state or not.
Well, I know when I go to just the pump, the other day I stuck my gas pump into my car and filled it up, and I usually fill it up for like $36, and now it costs nearly $50. I'm like, holy crap! I can't imagine what it must be to fill up a furnace, because they use a lot. I mean, I remember we did a study one time, and it was the average member was spending about $85,000 a month in natural gas or electricity. So it's a big expense for them, highly important. So, so we're rocking along the last year or so at record low gas prices and electricity prices, and everybody I think gets comfortable in that mode, going, man, this is awesome. It's really benefiting our business. We're seeing our profits rise because we're creating gaps there. But then comes along the articles of $200 a barrel gas and just volatility in the marketplace. What does that mean for people like our MTI members, the heat treaters? What does it mean for gas, natural gas, electricity? What's the volatility going to be like?
Sure. Well, we've definitely seen volatility increase. I often say no market, no commodity market can go ever lower. At some point that things are going to have to turn around. And 2021 was really a year where we saw that. Now you could say, well, relative to 2020, sure, of course, prices are up higher because we saw, even more record lows in 2020. Demand was low. Supply was still pretty robust. We didn't have much of a winter. But even if you take that out, if you look at a 2-year average or a 5-year average, absolutely prices have gone up really pretty much all year. And volatility, as you mentioned, Tom, has really increased. A couple things, kind of some underlying structural things. Weather is always a big one. We'll put that in its own category and talk about that in just a minute. But some underlying structural changes here in the U.S. Probably the biggest one we'll talk about is the idea of liquefied natural gas. LNG has grown very substantially here in the U.S. We're the largest exporter of LNG in the world. And here in the U.S., roughly 20%, a little under 20% of the natural gas that we pull out of the ground, we're sending to overseas markets. That might be Asia and Europe, where the price premiums are really dramatic. We'll take a look at that in a little bit, or even pipelines to Mexico, both of which continue to grow. So we're really subject to global events. Europe had a very cold winter last year. Asia traditionally doesn't have a lot of stockpiles of different energy sources. So both of them are really dependent on LNG, liquefied natural gas. And in a simple terms here, we won't do a whole lot of charts here for you today, Tom, and your members, but I'm just going to show you one real quick, 2 kind of key points that I think might kind of give some context to our conversations here.
Yeah.
One, and so let me just make sure you're seeing that, Tom.
Yeah, we are.
Up there.
Clear.
Great. Okay. So this is just the correlation between electricity and natural gas. This is kind of a good overview of just, when we say natural gas moves up today, power prices are probably going to move up tomorrow. So this is a 5-year look back of just Henry Hub natural gas spot prices. There's the orange line, and then our own internal Energy Research Council tracks suppliers' offers every day, and we can see where suppliers are actually pricing forward terms for power. So again, my big takeaway here is one, obviously the big run up that we've seen here in 2021, but again, that strong correlation between the two. While I'm sharing my screen, I'm just going to go ahead and stick on another one here, Tom. Oh, sure, please.
My big takeaway from this slide?
What's that?
Thank goodness that it moves with the natural gas, but electricity doesn't move with the spike. You got the 2 big spikes there that electric.
The spikes are definitely muted. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's a good thing.
This right here is what we'll talk a little bit about the February, what we kind of refer to as the February week massacre of February of this past year, where in Texas and the mid-continent had some extremely cold temperatures. Prices, particularly for natural gas, absolutely, literally went off the charts. Power followed it, but probably more on a over time, a slow, as I say, it kind of sent shockwaves through the whole energy complex. I think we're still feeling the effects on the electricity side and natural gas of that. Just a few days of record cold temperatures in Texas and mid-continent. But you're right, the spikes are there, but muted on the electricity side.
Right.
The other one I'm just going to stick with while I'm sharing my screen, and then we'll be done with slides here. This is when we talk about LNG and the premiums between what you can sell natural gas for here in the United States and what you can sell it for if you can get it over to Asia or Europe or the Netherlands for that matter. But what you see here is really record high prices in those other parts of the world that have really made natural gas be a global commodity. So when Europe has a cold winter, we feel it here. If we weren't exporting that much, roughly 20%, we wouldn't feel it the same way. Our domestic supplies would stay domestic. But again, if I can buy it or produce it here in the US for even what are relatively high prices, let's say it's $5 and an MMBTU, and I can freeze that down to 240 degrees below Fahrenheit, not freeze it, but make it really cold, it turns back into a liquid, put it on a tanker for a couple more dollars, and then sell it in Asia for $30, $40. Sure. That's what a lot of producers have chosen to do.
Man, our members would love to do that for their heat treat, right?
I bet that's right.
So go back to the previous slide real quick.
Sure.
Which kind of begs my next question. So you see a lot of the volatility right now, because we were rocking at $2 for $2 to $3 for quite a while, and now we're up to upwards of 5 to 6. So how do we see the volatility playing out? And do we see in the future with all the factors, and I know this is kind of throwing the crystal ball out there, is there any forecast that sees it coming back down, or do we see it going up, or is it just kind of all over?
Well, it is coming. Once we get through this one, there's been a huge premium for this winter, for really what you see reflected here. Just in the last few weeks, we do have some good news for your members, and you may be seeing it already. In the last few weeks, the weather forecasts for this winter, particularly for this month of December, have moved quite a bit warmer. I'm talking to you from Michigan today, Tom, and it's going to be close to 70 degrees here in Michigan.
Wow.
That really shouldn't be the case here in Michigan in the middle of December. It's not going to last forever, but what it's really done is had demand be extremely low, and then a rather pleasant fall allowed the producers to continue, not just nationally, to continue to produce more and inject more into the ground. So we've really seen kind of a combination of weather and these high prices are attracting some drillers back out into the fields. So we were looking at a potential shortfall compared to the 5-year average in terms of storage heading into winter. Now we're within just about 2.5% of the 5-year average. So the fears of running out of natural gas, not having enough, are quickly dissipating, and that's bringing prices back down. Still high relative to where they historically, but not these very dramatic off the chart kind of a situation.
So let me ask you a question. You mentioned demand earlier, and obviously demand's coming more now from international. But what on the electricity side? We just had a gentleman from Magna Powertrain come in, and he was the leader of their e-drive division, talk about the growth of electrical cars, and they're looking to try and get electric cars by 2030 as much as 25% of the entire U.S. driving base. So, and we started talking about they're doing blackouts one night a month or however often they do it in California because they don't have enough electricity to go around. And then you add in all these new electric cars. But here's the other factor: by 2024 at the Paris Olympics, they're supposed to launch companies launching electric helicopters that are electric based with nobody in there flying them. They're like drones, remote controlled, and they're going to be launching those. So now you got a whole nother level of electric demand. So when you look at this, the car demand coming in electricity, I mean, is there any talk at APPI in that? What does that mean for volatility, for pricing, for demand?
No question, it's going to drive demand higher. Absolutely right. There's even kind of a term, the electrification of everything.
Right.
So not only transportation and buses, ships, cars, as you mentioned, electric vehicles. But in the Northeast, we see a big push to move away from natural gas and have people heating their homes with electricity. So as we move more and more, put more demands on the grid, and it's an aging infrastructure, and the current administration has got a lot of plans to upgrade infrastructure. They've got plans to add 500,000 EV chargers and roll out a national network on that to support the move to EV. But yeah, I agree with you, Tom. No doubt in my mind, that's simply a matter of more demand that will be placed on the system, particularly when, as a country, we're trying to move more towards renewables and away from fossil fuels.
Right. So everything that we've talked about, weather, demand, is there any other factors we haven't talked about that could or will be driving volatility that people should kind of pay attention to in the news or in their research?
Well, I touched on real quickly the current federal administration is certainly got a big push to move to fight climate change. We see that both on the state level and the federal level as well. Not going to get political here today, but that generally comes with.
Please don't.
No, I promise I won't. But it generally comes with increased regulatory measures, and often that's added cost.
Sure.
So when you look at that amount of spending just around EVs, billions of dollars just towards EVs, billions and billions towards infrastructure upgrades, those costs ultimately have to come from somewhere. But at the same time, you've got demand going up. Yeah. You've got supply constraints. And one in particular, kind of the old not in my backyard. People generally say, yeah, I'm in favor of renewables, but I really don't want a solar farm out my back window. I really don't want to look at wind turbines out when I'm up in my home in Cape Cod. I don't want transmission lines running through my farmland. I don't want gas pipelines coming in from Canada. So you get a lot of this kind of a push-pull. And when you talk about renewables, where the wind blows, where the sun shines, is not necessarily where the people are. That's not necessarily where the big demand centers are. Right. So you've got, it's really windy in West Texas, but not a lot of folks live there compared to how many people live in Manhattan, for instance.
It's kind of interesting that people talk about, they think we have a population problem. And I always tell people, if you ever think we have a population problem, just take one airline flight across the country at 5,000 feet and look down the entire way, and you'll recognize we have plenty of land for people. It's just got to build it out.
There you go.
So do you have did any more of these charts? Did you have anything more about the charts?
No, I think that I think that those tell a good picture of and the correlation between natural gas and power. We, even in electricity conversation, we often start by talking about natural gas. It's just a more transparent market. Sure. You can kind of keep track of it and kind of see the trend. Electricity gets to be a little more vague, if you will, of how you can actually track those prices. And then again, I think the LNG, I think that's just a good graphical representation of it's a commodity. Right. Where can I sell it? Well, maybe I'll sell it to the highest bidder. And we're certainly seeing that on a national level.
Well, let's talk about the massive crystal ball. So, let's talk a little bit about contracts in terms of locking in. So we did a study last month and asked our members, we do weekly check-ins on Monday, and our members are great about answering these questions. And it's like being in a room and asking a question of the entire membership, and you get the feedback and get to see how they break down and how they respond. So the question we asked was, when you're looking at your energy contracts for electric or gas, how long are you locked in for your contract, to try and, literally try and guess how long you should lock in for? And so 34% of our members had no lock-in. I guess they were just going to spot market or whatever it is. They were not locked in. And then it was split 18, 18, 16 on 18% were locked in for a year, 18% were locked in for 2 years, and then the other 16% were locked in for 3+ years. So kind of all over the board, kind of even, except for the 34% that weren't locked in for anything. So, hey, can you unshare your screen?
I'm trying to figure that out for you, Tom, but I've got I apologize for that.
I got it right there.
Oh,
Got it
did it
done.
go
Got it
away?
done. Just want to be able to put us back on screen. So
I think you may have taken me off. Thank you. I couldn't
yeah,
figure it out. Thank you,
no
Tom.
problem. So talk a little bit about that, about, what should people, the thought process be walking through, especially now that we've gone from $2 to 5 to 6, and there's a potential of it going down. What should members be thinking? How should they be moving forward with their contract?
Yeah, so a couple of things, in terms of term length. We absolutely have seen more and more of our clients be looking to hedge longer. They kind of break out their crystal ball and say, do you really think prices are going higher, or do you think they're going lower? And most folks kind of look around and say, yeah, as you mentioned earlier, we have been in this period of record lows. I kind of think that the tea leaves are saying prices are going to move higher. Probably more to the point, though, is near-term prices have really been, and again, kind of this winter premium, if you will, for this year, have really elevated prices overall. The way that a lot of our clients have negated some of that is to go longer on their contract terms, to blend in some of those further out. And I don't have a chart for you in the forwards today. We could get that for any of your members, Tom. But kind of, where the market is pricing delivery in 22, delivery in 23, 24. As you get further out, those prices tend to get lower. The way that a lot of our clients have negated some of this short-term increase is to blend in those outer years. So that gives them a longer period of budget certainty. And they don't get quite the sticker shock by just going, hey, I'm just going to go for the next 12 months, because those are been some, and again, up until just a few weeks ago, those were some of the highest prices we'd seen in over a dozen years.
Right.
So to negate that, they've been going longer. Our average client term length for this year on the electricity side has been 40 months, about 3.5 years. And on the natural gas side has been 34 months. Both of those are higher than what we've seen in the past. And again, I think most people are looking and saying, yeah, I think prices are going to go up. But I want to blend in to get me through, particularly this winter, but for delivering 22 overall.
Well, it is a scary thing, because I can remember when gas was like 8 to 10 and it went to 5, and members were going, man, should I lock in for 3 to 4 years? And then it went from 5 to 4 to 3. And then it's like, well, is it going to ever go to 1? And then it's kind of like, okay, let's just play the market at 2. But now we're seeing it go up to 5 and 6. So, and I know I've talked to some members who did buy out for fairly long periods of time under $3. So, good guess on their part. But so are in volatile markets, when you have markets that aren't volatile, that's pretty consistent, like we saw for a while, and volatile markets, are there any contract terms that members should be wary of in volatile markets versus non-volatile markets? I mean, I know when markets get tight, it rises to the top issues that you didn't have to worry about when it wasn't volatile. So is there anything in contracts people should be worried about or pay attention to as things are kind of up and down?
Sure. Well, two things that kind of come to mind recently that have been really have a big impact on the energy industry. COVID overall. Mm-hmm. COVID really brought out a lot of folks, obviously by no fault of their own, were closed or reduced, or many times required to be closed for a period of time. What we'd seen is had seen not a lot of suppliers, but some suppliers went back and looked and really enforced contract volumes that they had never really done before, where they said, hey, if you look at the contract, you were supposed to tell us if you were going to use a lot less or a lot more than what we bought for you, so that they came back and kind of reinforced or enforced, I should say, some of those contract volume, which again, traditionally, a lot of folks really haven't worried about that. We often, for our members, our clients try to negotiate what's known as 100% swing, meaning you can use basically double your historical average, mm-hmm. or down to pretty much leave a light bulb on, or say on the electricity side, and you'll be fine. That fixed price protects you when those kinds of variations. But what some suppliers did is say, well, that's not really swing. That's kind of a material change. We bought 10 million kilowatt hours for you. You only used 5 million. We're kind of left holding the bag. This is when prices had really collapsed, so they couldn't turn around and sell it on the market. The demand wasn't there either. So they kind of went back and enforced that. Not a lot of suppliers did that, thankfully, but certainly some did. And it really kind of caused hey, let's take a look at what those contract terms really, really do mean for you. So that's one, in terms of COVID. The other thing I would caution folks to just keep a lookout for is what kind of a contract are you really under? If you know you're exposed to the market, that's one thing. But a lot of folks didn't necessarily realize that they had a variable price component, that they were in fact exposed to index prices. A good example there is what happened in Texas in the mid-continent in February. Again, I kind of call that the February week massacre, in where prices went in Texas at the wholesale level went from about 3 to 4 cents a kilowatt hour to $9 a kilowatt hour for a period of about 3-4 days. We had rolling blackouts. Tragically, a number of people lost their lives. Freezing temperatures in Texas. They're not really prepared for that. But that a lot of people were exposed, and not only just users, even some cooperative utilities and some suppliers were also caught unhedged, kind of living in that, as you say, hey, prices are coming down. I'm exposed to the market, but they just keep coming down. Why would I lock in? And then in a matter of just a few days, their budgets were blown for the year. And just a few days at those elevated prices, it really kind of was an awakening that, again, am I exposed to the market and I don't know it?
Right.
Or no, I knew I was living by the sword, dying by the sword. I knew I was exposed, but these years and years of low prices made it worthwhile.
Right.
We don't like surprises. That's our big thing. We don't like surprises.
Absolutely.
So if you know you're exposed to the market and you can sleep at night and you've got the budget to be able to withstand the peaks and valleys, ultimately you'll probably pay a lower price over time. But how do you get through those spikes that, as we saw on the one chart, were literally off the charts?
Right.
So I think contract terms around that are something, volumes, certainly like we said with COVID, but then what's included in your price and what type of a product are you really on? Yeah, it's all electricity, it's all natural gas, but the devil is really in the details around what's included in your contract terms.
So going from market to contract terms, now let's do a little shift. Data and technology is playing such a massive role to be able to predict the future, take advantage of peaks and valleys, and know when things are happening. So talk a little bit about the types of technology and data sets that APPI Energy sees are key to managing the energy process.
Sure. So on the data side, Tom, what we see, these ideas of generally an online portal, if you will, for utility billing, data management, that can do a number of things for you. It can automate the process. It can of even paying bills so much, but also having them in a single place where you can do some contrasting and compare. Maybe you have multiple facilities. What's my energy spend per square foot from this facility compared to this facility? Maybe we want to do some weather normalization. One's in the south, one's in the north. Can't really compare those two easily. Okay, let's take the weather out of it. We can help you with that. Maybe it's the idea of just kind of spotting anomalies. For the last 12 months, it's been 6 cents a kilowatt hour. Bill just came in, it's now 6.8. Okay, flag that. What's that about? Maybe someone didn't necessarily catch it in accounts payable, but the system is automatically looking and saying, wait a minute, there's been a change here. So that's what we're seeing a lot from the data side of things. Also, the ability to really kind of dig in and say, where's my usage coming from? Where's my demand coming from? When am I setting these peak demands? Are there things that I can do to change my process? Maybe look at some different variable speed motors. Maybe don't start up all the ovens at the same time. Are there things that I can do to reduce those coincident peaks? And really data management, that all starts with data. What are the big sources from a usage standpoint? That's your KWH, or your demand, the KW. We often say that the lowest price KWH is the one you don't use. So if you can reduce your usage, maybe that's LED lighting, maybe that's room sensors that the lights only go on when someone's in there. Those are some of the kind of the low-hanging fruits. But anything you can do along those lines, and don't forget, there's a lot of times utility rebates that we all pay for. You say,
Right.
oh, that's great. The utility's giving me money back. Well, you've been paying for it, and all their users are paying for it. And they collect that pot and give it back to the folks who take advantage of that. So we can help you with all your members with all that, handle all the rebates for them, let them know what they're actually qualify for. When you start to move into the bigger, what we'll call our solutions, and we actually have, although our roots are really in procurement, we've really tried to keep up with the trends in the energy industry, particularly, again, around sustainability and efficiency. So we have solar experts on staff on the APPI team that can actually take a look, from a satellite view, come back to you with what's known as a helioscope. Hey, if you put solar on, here's how much power you could expect to generate. Here might be your impact on your demand. Here's might be some cost. That same approach, what we like to think is kind of a best of breed approach, is very similar to how we do procurement, same as how we do solutions. We're going to go out, we're not going to rely on one source. We're not just going to bring you one provider or one vendor. We'll go out, cast a wide net, bring many, many offers back to the table, all with vetted suppliers and companies and providers that we've worked with and checked out, and then help you kind of understand the pros and cons of the different ones. So we're really seeing a tremendous growth. And again, about 15 states have deregulated their electricity market. About 25 have deregulated their natural gas market. That still leaves a lot of your members in other states that, up until a few years ago, we really couldn't help them quite as much. But now we've got options to help everybody reduce their usage, reduce their footprint, and try to lower their overall energy spend.
So let me ask you one final question. So hearing all, one, is there anything that's going through your mind that I haven't asked a question for that we haven't touched that you feel influences someone's ability to buy at the right cost or manage?
So I meant to touch on this one earlier. We were talking about volatility, but one of the biggest core things that we often preached on is to get out ahead of the market. I touched early on, we talked about the event in February. So I'll paint a little story here of a Texas customer who said, hey, you know what? My contract ends in March of 2021. Why don't you call me in February? That's when I'm going to go out to market my contract. And like most things in life, you need it, then you go buy it. Energy is different in that you can buy it today, but not take delivery of it till in the future, both electricity and natural gas. I'm going to buy it today at today's market conditions, but I don't want it today. I'm under contract for another year, 2 years. We often say get to 12 to 18 months before your contract ends. Just start testing the waters. Doesn't mean that's the day to buy. Doesn't mean you need to do anything, but let's just allow us or a trusted consultant to have actionable prices. Again, maybe you don't do anything, but you say, you know what, I think my budget for next year is going to have to go up about 10%. Okay, I've got that in mind. But boy, if I could get it to 8%, if I could have a target price in mind, then what that allows you to do, or APPI to do for you, is to monitor the market every week. Every month, we run 300 to 400 RFPs, requests for pricing, across the country. So we like to say we really got our finger on the pulse of the market.
Right.
And so we can help you buy on those inevitable dips. I'm going to go back to my example of, in Texas. Someone says, hey, call me in February. I'm going to buy in March. If we call them in February and that huge spike had happened, they really didn't have any time to wait for the market to sell out. What we say is get out ahead of it. Don't have to do anything, but let us monitor it for you. Let us show you the trends. Let us show you what's driving prices up, what's driving prices down. So when you then we see those inevitable dips on the market. And again, volatility means up and down. It doesn't mean always just up. It's the big swings. So we know those swings are going to come. Get out ahead of them. Take weather out of the equation. We don't know if it's going to be higher or lower in the future. Nobody does. But what we do know is the volatility is going to increase. Historical volatility increases as the start date gets closer. And the biggest driver there is weather.
Right.
And I've often say, do they know what it's going to be next weekend? Probably not. They sure don't know what it's going to be in the winter of 2023. So
only if you live in Arizona can you predict the weather.
Well, maybe.
Right. It's going to be hot for the next 6 months. That area. You know, light
All we
rain.
know here in Michigan, Tom, is it's going to be gray. We don't know if it's
I
going to be
know,
cold or
I
but it's
know.
going to be gray. That's all we do.
So I know we have a fair amount of members that do business with you guys and with your team, and you know we always like to help members with more. So I know, so the members listening in can hear. So when any company has ever switched from where they are to APPI, what do you hear the most of what they enjoyed about the switch and why they now enjoy being with you in terms of procuring their energy?
Clearly, I'm biased, but I really think my whole role here at APPI is again to help our clients by way of making our consultants as educated as they can be. So it's to help our clients make well-educated buying decisions. But ultimately, that decision is up to you. But we know that MTI members and the other associations we work with, they're wearing a lot of hats and they're running their core business. They don't necessarily have time to say, well, what is the price of natural gas in Asia these days? How does that affect me? How does the new administration, how does that affect? We're paying attention to this day in and day out. So what I'd like to say that many of our clients would say is that we do the heavy lifting for them. We're kind of an extension of their team. They can concentrate on their core business, but leave the energy monitoring up to the folks that are in it and live, eat, breathe, and sleep it every day. But then come back to them and say, we don't make the decision for you. We don't say, oh, hey, by the way, we hedged, the winter of 23. We'll come back to you and say, hey, Tom, we've got it. We think this is an opportunity for you. If you can give us a little of your time, we want to show you what we think are the pros and cons of our recommendation. If it doesn't make sense to you, no harm, no foul. There's no upfront cost. There's no obligation to our services. We literally have to prove to you that it makes sense to follow our recommendation. So I would like to think that a lot of our clients would say they took the time to educate me to the level I wanted to get involved in it. And some folks want to get way in the weeds. And some folks say, you know what, I just want you to give me a good price.
Right.
And we really try to work with our members on the time frame and the in-depth that they want to get into. And again, we really focus a lot on data, historical trends, projections, not just from one source, but from many, many sources, from the government, the EIA, from multiple suppliers, from our own analysis, so that we really try to do, cast a wide net, leave no stone unturned, and come back to you with multiple options, a recommendation based on data of when to buy and how long to buy for, but ultimately to help you make that well-educated decision.
Awesome. Well, remember, I want you to think through this concept. In all my years of business, 25 years plus, and studying manufacturing, how people are going to succeed in the future in terms of running their business, what I know is how you buy energy and spending time in front of the computer screen watching the energy markets is not going to keep you from going out of business. What is going to keep you from going out of business and everything that we've seen is if you're not got the right technology to become a smart company, because we're moving so much into Industry 4.0, because one, of the lack of people. And so making sure that your team have the right people in charge, the right culture, that's where you need to be spending your time developing that culture and your management, as well as just, moving forward in the processes. So, and not losing your customers. Always remember this. I had a great salesperson tell me one time that your customer is always someone else's prospect. Your workers are always someone's opportunity to recruit to come work for them. And if you're spending time in front of the computer screen watching energy markets, you're not taking that as time away from making sure your employees are happy in your culture and that your customers are happy doing business with you. So I just want to encourage you. MTI has a full slate of industry support partners in cybersecurity, human resources, and this one here, energy procurement. To get a hold of Dan's team at APPI Energy, if you go to heattreat.net, heattreat.net, our website, and the top left, you'll see it'll say industry support team. You click that, and then you'll see APPI Energy's information there that you can click on an email or call to be able to give them a copy of your energy bill or just have a conversation, see how they can help you. And if they can't help you, great, you stay where you are. But man, what if they could help you to where you could spend most of your time in front of your people, making sure they have a great culture, and in front of your management, make sure they're happy, and in front of your customers to make sure they want to keep doing business with you. I think the amount of money you get from that will far supersede than trying to manage your energy markets by yourself. So just give that some thought. They're helping a number of our members really do well in the energy markets. They can focus on the core parts of the business. People, people, people. Well, Dan, thank you so much for being here, and we look forward to having you back again in 2022. And our members, take care out there. We care for you. Have a great holiday season. And remember, you're not strong, you're MTI strong. And we'll see you in January at the Heat Treat Live and MTI Live webcast. Have a great day.
Thank you, Tom.